Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I have a legendary creator. I'm shocked that he hasn't been on the show before. I've never had the pleasure, but Jeph Loeb is joining me today. Jeph, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much. I don't know about legendary, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, something that is definitely legendary is your many collaborations with artist Tim Sale, who,
That part I'll
uh,
agree with you.
yeah, and it was a huge loss when he passed away a few years ago. A lot of people are going to know your work with him, with The Long Halloween. And that's what we're here to talk about today. There's sort of a final chapter, I guess we could say, coming out, The Last Halloween, with some, in fact, some unpublished work from Tim. Tell us a little bit about the project and why it means so much to you.
Uh, right. It's funny. Oftentimes I think that the how it all came together is hopefully I I think it's a more interesting story than the story I'm telling. I'm hoping that the story that I'm telling is also great too. He and I had wanted to. We felt like there was enough material to tell the the last Halloween. I mean, that's what it was going to be called, and that it was an opportunity for us to sort of wrap up uh, that saga that we started uh, so many years ago. We were just kids. It started with the three Halloween specials, and then Archie Goodwin talked us into doing the Long Halloween. Mark Chiro then came on at because we had lost Archie. We came on and did Dark Victory, and then after that, Catwoman went in Rome. So in many ways, they are the six parts that come before this story. But I want to assure the readers and the fans that this is a book that you could read by itself. It's just so much more richer knowing that you're reading the end of a saga. And it began as in 2021, which was Tim's last work, other than covers, that we did the Long Halloween special, which we always intended for it to be the prologue for the last Halloween. And DC probably wanted to make sure that there was still, you know, I hadn't done any comic work in almost 10 years because I was running Marvel Television.
Hmm.
And so I think they sort of wanted to see whether or not the magic was still there. When you have Tim Sale, there's no question that there's magic there.
Right.
And so it came out, it did really well, and sort of immediately they were like, "Go now, dude! Last Halloween." And so fortunately, we had spent a good deal of time talking about this 10-part murder mystery that was going to tie up uh, a lot of little breadcrumbs that we had knowingly, in some cases unknowingly, left along the way, going all the way back to the first Halloween special and going right up into Catwoman in Rome. But uh, this feels like its own thing in its own way. And we were super excited. And I had written out the outline for the story and had done the first two scripts. Tim had just started and had done 3 pages. And when I say done, they were layouts. They're very, very rough,
Right.
but they've never been seen by anybody. And then he was gone. And it was just, I didn't just lose the guy that I was doing Last Halloween with. I lost my friend and I lost my partner and I lost a guy that could tell stories better than anybody I knew. And so I just took it all and I put it in a drawer and said, I got other things to do besides missing my friend. And about a year went by, and Richard Starkings, who is our letterer and our designer and has been there from the very beginning and is oftentimes our inspiration, and Mark Chiarello, who had been with us on Dark Victory and really was and is an exceptional friend to Tim and to me, and a brilliant colorist and illustrator, and could talk about art forever. And we were all talking, and we started talking about the last Halloween, and together sort of came up with, well, maybe if it wasn't something that we did without Tim, but maybe it was something that we did for Tim.
Hmm.
And then Mark came up with this image that is stuck in my head to this day, which is, why don't you think about it as Tim is sitting in a rocking chair on Pa Kent's porch in a mythological Smallville as opposed to the real Smallville. And he has the whole book collected. And he's just flipping through pages. Uh, and it's all his favorite artists. And he's just smiling because everyone got together to do this story that in itself is a very compelling story, but the fact that all of these people did it really out of love for Tim, makes it, in my mind, exceptional. And so we went back to DC and said, look, we want to do this, but we're going to do it with 10 different artists. And they, and they were like, guys, just doing one story with one artist for 10 issues is hard enough. Jeph, like, how's this? And we were incredibly lucky that Ariana Turturro became our editor, and because she's been herding cats with a chainsaw for the last year. And I think a lot of people asked us, you know, tell us how's this different from the Long Halloween? And I think the Long Halloween is a story it's about many things, but from a plot, it's about the how the freaks took Gotham City away from organized crime. And I think we know that organized crime is not something that ever goes away. It's
Hmm.
and so this is sort of, in many ways, the last stand, and sort of answers the question as to what happened to the Falcone family, because it really did own Gotham City at the beginning, and in the stories that are present, there's lots of different organized crime families that are still running around in Gotham City, but the Falcones are gone, and where'd they go, and what happened to them, and it's equally awesome that people like Christopher Nolan and Matthew Reeves have used this material as source materials for their films. That those characters have turned up in the television show Gotham. Sophia Falcone is going to be the main antagonist in the Penguin series on Max or HBO, I guess now. There's an animated version. It just sort of became this thing that I don't think Tim and I ever expected. We just wanted to tell a really good Batman story, uh, and uh, and so it felt like this was the right thing to do. And so we came up with a list of these incredible artists, and I that just so everybody knows, we didn't pick people who drew like Tim. We picked people who were Tim's inspirations, were Tim's people that he loved looking at their work, and that yes, you could see similarities. They all have sort of a noir feeling to them. Is what I like to say is that they have a lot of uh, they have a lot of ink all over the page. Characters that are dropping in and out of shadows. None more so than our first issue is with Eduardo Risso, who gave us 100 Bullets. And then the list goes on from there with the legendary Klaus Janson. Mark Chiarella does the third issue. It's very rare that Mark does interior work, and also did his own colors. Dave Stewart does the colors for, also another legend, does the colors for all of the issues, other than three. Cliff Chang, whose storytelling is remarkable, did issue 4. Bill Sienkiewicz did issue 5. Everyone said to us, like, Billy's not going to be able to do 24 original pages by the year 3000, and he was done first. Like I would say to everybody else, what are you waiting for? Billy's done. And Enrico Marini, who's a brilliant European artist, Dave Johnson, another guy who great covers that we see very rarely get to see interior work, doing beautiful stuff. Becky Cloonan, who just literally walked away with every Eisner Award that I think they've ever made. Um, we had her first, and she was very close with Tim. Chris Samney, every time he posts on Instagram, I'm like, I love this. This is incredible. And then Matteo Scalera winds it all up. And if you don't know his work, go out and get One Bad Day with Mr. Freeze. I needed somebody that could handle the entire cast, and Matteo can handle anything you throw at him, and so it's just extraordinary and beautiful. And everybody did their own pencils and ink, and we're almost done. And the first issue hasn't hit the stand, so I'm reasonably certain we're going to be on time. Um, and then just to make it even more special and fun is that all the interior guys and Becky are doing uh, their own covers, which are mug shots of the characters that are in there. So
Oh,
like
cool.
Klaus Janson is doing a mug shot of the Penguin, who's in issue 2. And Chiarello did the Riddler in issue 3, and it was Mark's idea to do these things. So everyone immediately like said, okay, I can do that. I can do a mugshot. And then the treat is that the A cover, the main cover, is actually uh, Tim Sale's artwork, right? As you can see in the thing that's on the side of your,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's in your background, whatever you call that. And what we did is we found original pieces that had never been published that Tim had done, because oftentimes when Tim did covers, he would do a cover and then he would do another cover, because he had a different idea. But these were finished pieces, and so the colored beautifully by Chiarello, who's just in another league, along with Dave Stewart. They're just amazing guys who understand color in a way that I never will. Um, and uh, and so there's you do get that gift too, which is another 10 beautiful covers by Tim. There's a new cover on the special, which we've now renamed what it was always supposed to be, which is the prologue. So it's the 0 issue. So when it is all collected someday, it'll actually be a 12-part story, not a 10-part story, because the first 2 parts, that was that 48-page special, is the beginning of the story.
Hmm.
And has all of our main characters. And I think it's right that we start with Tim, and then move into these incredible, talented people. And then the other bonus is that there were other people who wanted to do something, but for one reason or another, scheduling, or because it just, asking somebody to stop whatever they're doing to do 24 original pages is madness at best. And again, Ariana is like out there herding cats with a chainsaw and trying to make it all come together and doing a brilliant job. And so we have a third set of covers, which are what we call the superstar tribute covers. And the first one is that guy Jim Lee, and then J. Scott Campbell, and then Arthur Adams, and then Ian Churchill, and then Rob Liefeld doing his first Batman cover, Joyce Chin, Cully Hamner, Brian Celefries, Juano Guardino, who you may know from Black Sad, and does beautiful painting. He did this incredible painting of Batman and Catwoman, and then we finish it with the master, Adam Hughes. And so we really wanted. I think when people see it, they'll see it as this incredible, all these people got together to say to Tim, this is how much we love you. And by the way, there's a really cool story here. And then it's a 24-page story without any ads, and then there's an additional 8 to 10 pages that are in the back that has an interview with each of the artists talking about Tim's effect on them or their effect on Tim. And then some pencils that you'll probably never ever see. All the stuff you get in an absolute, you're going to get in a single issue. And then obviously it'll all be collected and then it'll be this massive thing, which I love. And I'm, as you can tell, I'm not excited at all. Um, and it's just they're great characters in a great setting. It's there are some questions that people want answered from the previous stories that they'll get some answers as I usually do. And but it is our main cast, which is Batman and a somewhat older Robin. I know that when in Dark Victory, uh, Tim would draw Robin, and I saw Robin like at about 10 when he first met Batman, and Tim would draw him like he was a 6-year-old, and I would go, Tim, I understand you're not a father, but like this, a 10-year-old does not look like this, and it just make me laugh every time I look at those pages. So with everybody, I had to say to them, listen, picture River Phoenix in Stand By Me. That's who Dick Grayson is. Same kind of attitude, same kind of bravado, same kind of tragedy. Like all that stuff comes across in facial expressions, and it'll work out great. Obviously, Two-Face, Harvey Dent, Gilda Dent, and Commissioner Gordon, who's it's still one of my favorite characters to write. And then, there'll be a rogue in every story, and there'll be what's left of the Falcone Empire, and for those of you that have read the previous stories, they know who that character will focus on. And there might be a holiday that's running around out there, because it is a murder mystery, and so I wanted to have an opportunity to sort of tie it all up with Tim, and I'm getting to tie it all up for Tim, with this incredible, group of talent, and to use your word, those are the legends. And every time I get to look at the book as it gets completed, I just have this huge smile on my face because I know that it would be something that Tim would be very proud of. So that's what the goal is.
Yeah, that's amazing. And one of the things for anybody that hasn't read The Long Halloween, one of the things that I love about it, yes, it's a Batman story, but really it's more of an ensemble piece. You were naming off kind of the main characters. They all have equal time, whether it's Harvey Dent or the Falcone family or Gilda, or Batman himself, Jim Gordon. I love sort of the mirror here of people that Tim admired and was inspired by their work. They in turn, as you mentioned, they're going to have interviews in the back where they can talk about the way Tim's work inspired them, but it sort of mirrors the story, right? You have an ensemble that is coming together to pay tribute to Tim, and I imagine it's going to have that same feel, which is so great in crime noir, of more of an ensemble piece. Everybody has kind of equal spotlight time, a chance to shine in the story. I'm assuming this story is going to be similar with more of
It
an ensemble,
it
everyone
it
having a
it
chance.
it, it feels very much. It's one of the things that I'm very grateful that Richard Starkings is part of, because he's always been my sounding board, and so like I ask the same question every time I send in the script and the artwork for lettering and placement, and he'll write back to me, this feels like a Long Halloween story, and that's important to me. It's because I've always I get asked a lot, uh, you know, who do you write for? And the answer oftentimes is that uh, other writers will oftentimes say that they write for themselves, which is not unusual. Screenwriters do that all the time. Like they have a story, they want to get it out, and that's what they want to do. And some of the other writers will say that they write for fans, which is very cool, and I get that a lot. That's always a little piece that's in my head. Oh, that'll be a cool thing that fans get to see, because I'm a fan and I'm a reader and I'm a geek and I want it to be a cool comic. Um, but I've always written, and I think it's because my background as a screenwriter and a television writer, is that I've written for the artist.
Hmm.
I want that artist to be excited by what it is that he's reading, so that, or she's reading, so that they can sit down at the board, that big white page, and get excited every day by what they're doing. And sometimes it's just a quiet little emotional scene. It doesn't always have to be biff bam boom. And the real gift from this is that I didn't know any and had not worked with any of these artists before. I knew them, or we'd run into cons and say hello and that kind of thing, but I've really had a chance to get to know these people and and talk about Tim and talk about art and talk about, the things that they like to draw, and still make it the Long Halloween, still make it in that world. We are using Tim's design with those big, tall, incredible ears, and the pouches, and as I like to say, the cape that changes from panel to panel. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's 15 feet long. And I encourage everybody to just embrace that and go with it. Part of the fun of when I talk about the superstar covers, I said to everybody, you can draw whatever you want. All I ask is that you use Batman's Tim's design, and that somewhere on the cover is the Halloween pumpkin, which is the bat symbol in the pumpkin, and which Tim designed. And I was amazed that 10 covers by 10 different artists, who none of whom spoke to each other. They didn't even know who else was working on it. Like, nobody ever said who else is doing the cover. They just said, I'm in. Um, no one repeated it. No one used the same. Sometimes it's a design element, sometimes it's an actual pumpkin, sometimes it's like on the Jim Lee cover, it's in the moon. I thought everyone was just going to use the bat signal and that would be it, but I was wrong. And so it's that really is the greatest gift of all from Tim, is that he's left me without him, but with 10 new friends that I get to work with, and I get to understand, and I get to tell the best story that I can for them, that they can then in turn make it for Tim. And so far, we've got 8 out of 10 done, and so I'm reasonably certain that we're going to make our schedule. I think I said that earlier, but I just want everybody out there to know that now I know some people are going, but Jeph, it's a 10-part story that takes place over a year. And we built in a skip month in February, and we built in a skip month in July, so that we could land back in October. But I'm talking to DC now about maybe doing something special in there. I don't know what it is yet, but it'll be cool, and part of everything that is the last Halloween.
That's amazing. I couldn't think of a more fitting tribute. And everybody, if you're not familiar, go. Now's the time to read The Long Halloween, so you'll be ready for the last Halloween when it comes out. So, Jeph, thank you so much for your time. Again, just a fantastic tribute, really fitting of Tim and who he was, and just again, so talented, but really just a great guy. Fun to talk to at cons, and just such a tragic loss, but this is such an amazing way to honor his memory and his work. So thank you for doing this, and I look forward to checking it out.
Thanks so much. I can't wait to hear what you think.